You think you've got the perfect bleach application, the foils are set, everything looks great, and then boom, the bleach starts expanding, the foils slip, and suddenly it's a total mess. Does that sound familiar? Well, I'm here to help. I'm Patricia Nikole at Painted Hair, here with Schwarzkopf Professional. Let's get you comfortable using BLONDME. Skip ahead using the timestamps below or save this video to reference later. I'm going to explain proper mixing ratios, how long to leave on the BLONDME bleach, and all of the BLONDME do's and don'ts so you can achieve everything from subtle highlights to platinum transformations while maintaining the hair's integrity. Think of this video like your ultimate BLONDME cheat sheet, the ultimate how to use BLONDME checklist that you can reference again and again. Now, BLONDME isn't scary, so if you have ever heard anything about it, I'm here to erase those fears because I use it every single day. I use it on my blonde clients who have fragile hair, all the way up to my clients who have the darkest levels with the most coarse, thickest hair, and I get the most beautiful results. If you have any questions about anything, you can go back to my page to look, but here we are today. I'm going to show you in real time everything that you need to know to be able to take this expertise back to your clients and be successful with it. So let's get started. Let's talk about my favorite lightener out of all of lighteners, and that is the Premium Lightener 9+. Now, that's not to say I don't love all lighteners from the BLONDME line, but this one holds a special place in my heart. So for me, a rule of thumb with BLONDME 9+ is that I never use a developer strength that's higher than 20 volume on scalp or in foils. And that's for somebody who has clients primarily that are levels 2, 3, and 4. So as you can see, I have 7 volume here and I have 20 volume. A really crazy thing is that on my page, a lot of hairstylists will say, I didn't even know you could use 7 volume to lighten with. I didn't think that it would actually move or it would do anything. And for me, I think that you are able to get such a detailed, controlled lift, especially when you're thinking about creating these seasonal tones or these beautiful looks that are trending, that are so amazing. 7 volume is going to be your friend. Or especially if you have these darker levels of clients that maybe have hair that are on the fragile side, but still you want to get them blonde, 7 volume is going to be that developer to help you achieve that lift. Or they have healthier hair, then you can also use the 6% 20 volume in foils, and you are going to get the same gentle, healthy lift because it has the bond protection inside. And that's something that a lot of hairstylists don't realize or understand, is that you don't need to do anything to the hair to prepare it. You don't need to apply anything before you start. That could also be what's creating any undesirable results in the lightening process. So you just need to go straight into lightening with BLONDME to get where you need to go. So I'm going to also show you how to mix up BLONDME. I'm going to show you how to mix up the precision lightener and the clay lightener. Also, how to apply it, all the do's and don'ts, so that way you are successful. So let's get started. All right, so now we're going to jump into proper mixing ratio for the BLONDME Premium Lightener 9+. I'm a hairstylist that's been doing hair for 20 years, and there is never a time that I will mix my lightener without a scale. The reason why is because I also have an R&D background, and the thing that you have to understand about mixing is that you need the proper amount of peroxide to be able to mix with the lightening powder to create a result. And if you are trying to eyeball that, well, we don't have like a science mind. We don't know, we're not a scale, so we don't know how to make sure that we're getting exactly what we need to get in our formula. So measuring is always the best way. It's the key to making sure that our clients are getting the best out of their experience with us. So here we go with the scale. Also talking again about making sure that you are also getting the most value. So you want to make sure, and I always talk about this even with my students, that we're at a time where we want to save money. We want to make sure that everything that we're doing is the most cost effective. And if we're mixing big batches of lightener, or we're overusing too much developer, then that can end up creating a huge amount of waste or a large cost on our end that we don't need. And so I always say you want to make sure that you're mixing up small batches, because that way you are using the lightener and it's going to be effective, and you are using exactly what you need, and you're not wasting lightener that you don't need, and also you're getting the results that you need as well. Back a little bit more into the technology of BLONDME. BLONDME also has a anti-metal technology in it that I think is really cool and a lot of people don't know about. The reason why that's cool is because, again, going back to the fact that you don't need to pre-treat the hair. There's nothing that you need to invest in more besides the BLONDME line that is going to prep the hair and get it ready for the blonding service. There's nothing out there that is going to give you, in my opinion, the most reliable, healthy results than what BLONDME can give you. And I say that wholeheartedly because I'm such a BLONDME advocate. I really do like to show these foil pulls in my videos. I like to show these satisfying transformations. I like to show the way that BLONDME can lift so evenly and give you these beautiful blonding results, because it works. And I like to show from start to finish what it can do, because it really does what it says it can, and do it in a way where your clients leave and come back with their hair in beautiful condition. So now we're going to get into mixing the BLONDME Premium Lightener 9+. So there's one thing I want to talk about that's very important. So there's a lid on here that really is going to give you a very snug fit. It's important that you go in and sort of take your thumb and make sure that you are snapping this lid on tight. That way the powder doesn't go anywhere. And so you just want to, this is going to make sure that you can stack these lighteners on top of each other if you have like 2 or 3 that are set aside on the shelf. And then what you want to do whenever you're opening it is, you see that there's a little side here. You just take your finger and come in here, and it'll just lift very easily this way. And then you can remove your lid and get started. Just like that. Okay. So the mixing ratio is 1 to 1.5 or 1 to 2. And I'll talk about what I do just to make sure that we're on the same page. So if I'm doing a on the scalp bleach and tone, I like my consistency to be a little bit thicker so I have more control, because I don't want that lightener to move. I want it to stay exactly where I put it. So what does that mean? I will make sure that I do a 1 to 1.5 mixing ratio, because I want my lightener to be a little bit thicker. If I want my lightener to have a little bit more flexibility when I foil, then I will do a 1 to 2 mixing ratio. Again, that's up to you as an artist to be able to decide what it is that you like to work with. But for me, this is what works well. So here we go. I'm going to scale this for you so you can see. I have my lightener here. And I always like to start with half a scoop. The reason why is because I can always go and mix more. You think of it as like, you know, when you're eating something and your mom says, oh, just take what you need because you can always come back for a second. Kind of think of it like that whenever you're using lightener, because you want that lightener to be able to work and to have the best amount of time to work and process. So every new bowl that you're mixing is going to give you that fresh lift. All right, so here we go. Going in, and let's just say I'm going to measure out 20 grams. I like to be very precise. Okay, again, I have my lid here. I'm going to snap it on. Remember, you want to take your thumbs and really make sure that you hear these snaps. Just like that. Nice and tight. Okay. Now, here are the 2 developers that I'm going to choose from. So we have my model here. She's a new model. She's somebody who's never had her hair lightened before. And her hair is, you know, medium texture. She has very strong hair, so I don't need to worry about using 7 volume on her. She's good to go. But also, there's another variable. Let's just say she's somebody who wants a bleach and tone transformation, but she doesn't want to be platinum. She maybe wants to be a softer powder brown, or maybe like a, you know, a lighter chocolate brown, but maybe not as dark as this. 7 volume is great, and the reason why is because I will have enough lift to get her to a level where I need her to be, but I won't be taking out too much of the tone to be able to support a color that I put on top like a lighter brown. So there's so many tips and tricks with 7 volume that are so amazing, but since we're going to be using her hair or lightening her hair in foils and we want to get her a lived-in blonde, we're going to go for 20 volume. I'm just giving you different scenarios just to give you maybe some aha moments or things to think about whenever you are in your lightening process. Okay, so now we're going to get into mixing. I'm going to move 7 volume aside, and we're going to go in right here with 6% 20 volume. And now I'm going to tare my scale. So remember, I had 20 grams in my bowl, and I'm going to do a 1 to 1.5 mixing ratio, which means I'm going to add 30 grams of developer to my bowl. Another tip. So you have your brush here, and I love these brushes. They're so cute. They're Schwarzkopf, and they're small. But instead of using a whisk, because remember, you never want to use a metal whisk whenever you're mixing up your lightener, you can take a comb here, or you can take your brush, depending on what you have available, and you want to make sure that you're folding your lightener and you're not whisking it and adding too much oxygen into your product, because what happens when you do that with any lightener is that you're introducing the oxygen and you are fluffing it up too much. And what happens is that whenever you are lightening with it, you're foiling with it, you're doing a bleach and tone, is that when you apply that lightener and it's already in a fluffed up state, and then it also is going to process on top of that, it is going to give you undesirable results. So in order to get your lightener to stay where it's at and not develop ahead of time, you want to fold your lightener. So you can do one of two things. Use your brush and just go in at a figure 8, which is what I like to do, or you can take your comb and do the same. So I'm going to just show you how I do that. And I just go in a figure 8, and it actually mixes up pretty quickly. Just figure 8. This is just such a nice consistency, one that you can spread, but it's not going to be puffed up. And that is very important whenever you are working with a lightener, because look at how nice that looks. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to move. It's going to stay exactly in place. And it's just enough lightener for you to get through a process, maybe the back part of the head, and then you can start on a side and mix up a fresh bowl. All right, so another thing I want to talk about whenever you are using the BLONDME Premium Lightener is that when you're going in and you're doing a foil application, okay, let's just say we're going to start in the front. We're going to give her an express service. We're going to give her a quick little face framing blonde, okay? So we're going to go in, and we are going to think about the amount of hair that we're putting in a foil. That's number one. That is going to be a variable, right? You're going to think about, okay, so if I have so much hair in a foil, then I'm not going to really be that, I'm not going to be able to be that, you know, great at being able to lift through because I have so much hair. The lightener is not going to be able to push through and give me these beautiful results. So I want to think about maybe taking less hair in a foil, because I don't want to have so much lightener be saturated in a foil. That's another way that you are going to get undesirable results. And that's another way that your lightener is going to shift in a foil and maybe expand more than what you want it to. And that's for any lightener. That goes across the board anywhere, anytime you're doing any sort of lightening service in general. So you want to think about this. So let's just say I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a service where I'm giving her some lightening, right? So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to thin out a section here. I'm going to take my foil and I'm just going to lay the hair here. So I'm going to turn her head so you can see. Maybe I'm not. Here we go. Just like that. And what you want to do is you want to take your brush and you want to make sure that you are not over saturating your foil so the lightener doesn't move. So you just want to apply this lightener just like that. The key to this is just making sure that this hair lays nice and smooth straight down. A lot of times there's education out there that tells you that you're not going to get the lift that you need unless you completely saturate this foil. And I'm talking like saturate it like this. Well, once you start stacking foils on top of each other, or even start folding foils and then stacking them, what happens is that the heat from the scalp is going to heat up all of these foils and create a reaction. And those foils are then going to heat up and make this lightener with the oxygen and then also the lightening process, it's going to create where the lightener wants to move because it's pulling out the melanin out of the hair. It's the oxygen's doing its job. And so all of this stuff is happening in real time. And with the heat, it's making everything worse. So what you want to do is you want to take some of this lightener off. You don't need all of this lightener because the BLONDME Premium Lightener 9 Plus does such a great job at lightening. You don't take all this lightener off. You only need this much, just like that. That's plenty. And instead of folding your foils, you just want to lay your foils down, just like that. And because if you think about it, when you start folding your foils, you have that much more foil stacked on top of foil. You're conducting that much more heat, and you're creating that much more of a response in your lightener that is undesirable. So laying your foils down just like that is going to be amazing. And that is my tip and my trick to making sure that the lightener stays exactly where it needs to be. And that is with the BLONDME Premium Lightener 9 Plus. Now we are going to move on to the Precision Lightener. And I love the Precision Lightener. It really is such an amazing lightener. There is a few uses for it that I want to talk about because I think it's really amazing. And the two uses that I want to talk about are the fact that, number one, what it's made for. Precision Lightener is made to be used on the scalp for bleach and tone touch-ups. That's what it was designed for. That's what it's made for. And what it does is it has a technology in it that will give you a very cooling sensation at the scalp. So that way you don't have a lot of irritation. It is going to give you 7 levels of lift, but it's going to be very gentle. The lift is beautiful and healthy. It has the bond technology in it. It's a great lightener. But it is also used, again, for a lot of stylists who feel like they don't need as much lift from like the BLONDME Premium Lightener 9 Plus can provide. So they feel like this is going to be something that's good for them. They don't need as much lift per se, and so they will gravitate towards this lightener here. What I will say is that, again, you can use both 20 volume or 7 volume depending on what you need. I would say if you're using the Precision Lightener with 7 volume, you're talking about you're using it on somebody who has like angel fine hair, somebody whose level is maybe like a light fine level 7, 8, that really like is lightener sensitive, that really just needs like a bump up. Maybe high lift exposes too much warmth and is not a solution for them. So the Precision Lightener is great. So now I'm going to show you the proper mixing ratio. And the development time is 20 to 40 minutes. So here we go. And I'm going to show you what this powder looks like. So this is going to be a white powder. And the mixing ratio is 1 to 1.5. So let's see what it looks like, because I showed you what 1 to 1.5 looks like. Let's show you what 1 to 1 looks like. Because if you're going to be putting it on scalp, like I'm going to show you on her, 1 to 1 would be what I would use. So again, let's use the scale. And then I'm going to go in here. I'm going to mix up 20 grams. And again, it's very important that you hear that. So that way everything stays in place in the tub. All right, here we go. Let's save this to the side. And let's just say she doesn't have angel fine hair. She has darker hair, right? So we're gonna go for 20 volume. And we're gonna do 1-to-1. So I'm gonna add 20 grams here, all right? One tip that I have whenever you are mixing up this lightener, because of the consistency of it, you wanna make sure that when you are adding, oh, put it back on the scale. You wanna make sure that when you're adding the developer, that you are actually sort of putting it in a circle in a bowl, and you wanna make sure that you're kind of going through the powder with it, so that way it's a lot easier for you to manipulate whenever you are mixing it. So here we go. Right there. Okay. So that's what it looks like right here. And these lighteners all mix really beautifully. And I just want to show you the consistency so you know that this lightener is going to stay where you put it. And also, one thing that's really cool about this BLONDME Precision Lightener is that there's added chelating agents inside of this lightener, so that way whenever you are doing it on the scalp precision technique, it is going to stay where you put it. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now on my client here, who has one foil here and is also going to get a bleach and tone application. So I'm going to demonstrate exactly what it's going to look like. And look, I just mixed it up and the lightener's here. So this is going to be a precise application right at her base. I'm going to give you a real life scenario, or a for instance. Let's just say she came in and she already had a bleach and tone. And so we're going to look at her and we're going to diagnose her hair. We're going to say that this is going to be new growth here, and she already has lightening done here, and let's just say she has a band here. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I am not going to touch this lightness that she has here, because I don't want to create any breakage. I want to stay exactly in place and I don't want it to move. So I'm going to start here. And also, I don't want this lightener to be exactly at her scalp right away. I want to give it time to kind of develop before I get a closer scalp, because that's where the heat is. And it just really needs to process right here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the hair here, and I'm going to just apply with my brush. And look at how precise I'm able to get this lightener on. And I can just work it down. This is why 1-to-1 mixing ratio is so important whenever you're doing a bleach and tone, especially a precision bleach and tone with somebody who already has different lines going through their hair, different situations going on. Let's just say her hair's a little bit more fragile, more blonde here, whatever the situation may be. Or let's just say she has, you know, I'm focusing on lightening here, but she has a band here that maybe is a little bit darker, but this area is a little more fragile, so I need to come in here and maybe really just work on this band here. But I don't want to move it here because I don't want this to break. So this is really what I want to show you. These are the things that you can do with the BLONDME Precision Lightener. That's why it's called Precision. Just like that. And not worry about anything, not worry about this lightener moving at all. It's really an amazing lightener. All of them are. Just like that. Okay. And also, this lightener has been sitting here in the bowl, and it's staying in place. And I'm also going to go back to the premium lightener in the bowl. I'm going to show you what that looks like, because it's been sitting here and it's staying in place. The lightener hasn't moved. I think it's important for you to see that as I'm moving through this video, coming back through and keeping the lighteners mixed in the bowl and kind of showing you where we're at different points in time as I'm working on my mannequin, so you can see what it is to expect when these lighteners are properly mixed. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this foil that I originally worked on so you can see what it looks like when I pull her foil, even though she hasn't been processing that long. All right, so now we're going to move into the last but not least, one of my favorite lighteners, because as you know, I'm painted hair, and what I love to do is paint hair. So we are going to be talking about the clay lightener, the freehand 7+ lightener that is so amazing. Okay, so scale, and again, you want to make sure that you unsnap. One thing I want to talk about when you're mixing up the clay lightener, because it's clay. So clay has its own texture to it. You know, you want to make sure that when you're using it, you have to understand the consistency of all clay lighteners and what they do and how they work. So in order for clay lightener to work and to move, it has clay in it, and clay has a powder to it. And the technology behind the BLONDME Clay Lightener is that it creates a shell. So that shell is going to allow the lightener to stay warm inside or wet inside, so that way it can process. But that way you can freehand paint and you can allow your sections to lay on top of each other. It needs to have this consistency to it. So you really want to keep that in mind whenever you are working with this lightener. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to stick your face in it. You don't want to be up close to it. And you also want to be mindful of it whenever you're pouring it into your bowl. So what I like to do is I like to, again, use half a scoop. And I don't really want to just dump it, because that's going to make the clay powder sort of just go everywhere. I just like to put my scoop right towards the bottom and just really kind of lay it in. Because if I just go in and dump it, then it's going to make it go everywhere. And again, we're respecting the fact that it's a clay lightener. This is just the way that it is, and that's with all clay lighteners. Now, I want to talk about the developers that you want to use to get the best lift. And what levels of hair and why. So with the clay lightener, it's important to remember that it is going to be a process that is going to be freehand open air. With that being said, you want to think, okay, because of that, and it's not going to be processing in foils, I need to think about a stronger developer. And also there's a clay additive in it, so it's not going to be as strong as the BLONDME Premium Lightener 9+. So it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and bump up my, my developer strength. I don't typically ever use 40 volume. That's just not a lightener that I use, because for me, I like a gradient blend, and I'm able to achieve a gradient blend by a slow and low process. And so 30 volume is the highest that I will go. It doesn't matter on the darkest level, even with my painted hair, my high contrast painted looks. And I'm gonna give you a scenario too, and we're gonna use her, okay? So she's already had painted hair on her hair, but I wanna do a touch up, and let's just say over time her hair has sort of, you know, what happens with the lightening process is that the underlying pigment will reform if the hair is healthy. And so that's why when you come back in, their hair looks a little bit darker, because those color molecules have sort of come back into place. They haven't completely been lightened out. And so you're going to see them come back into the hair. So what needs to happen is that she needs another round of lightening in order to go lighter. And even though she's been lightened before, she can safely be relightened again. She can be relightened until she's a level 9, and that is a big misconception among stylists. It's like, wait a minute, she's already been lightened before. How, you're overlapping. Well, it's okay, because her hair is not a level 9, she's not a level 10. She still has room to go. So in order to safely do that, you need to think about your developer strength, and in order to make sure that you are doing it safely. So you can do this in 2 areas. If she has new growth here, you can use 30 volume. You can mix up 2 different bowls. You can use 30 volume to paint with, starting at the top, and then you can go in and transition to 7 volume in the bowl over the mid-lengths and ends, or areas that you want to sort of bump up and make a little bit lighter, whatever it is. But in her case, she's never been painted before, so we're gonna stick to the back. Right here. I am going to use a 1 to 1.5 mixing ratio, and again, I'm gonna get 7 levels of lift, and this is exactly what the container looks like. I'm going to be using 30 volume because she's never been lightened before. What I'm not going to use, because I like the slow and low approach to be able to get the most beautiful gradient blend, is I'm not going to use 40 volume. If I have somebody who has a blend that's already light, but I still want to bring up her blend, I might use 30 volume where her new growth exists, and 7 volume at her mid-lengths and ends. Or let's just say she's maybe not as blonde on her mid-lengths and ends, but still wants to go a little bit lighter than that. I might start at 30 volume, higher where her new growth is, and then go into 20 volume on her mid-lengths and ends. So you really do get to decide and be a scientist and really think about how much gas do you want to put on that pedal to get where you need to go. And then now I'm going to start moving. Okay, so now we have 20 grams here in the bowl, and I'm going to tear this here, and I'm going to do, I'm going to do 1 to 1.5 mixing ratio. Okay. And I'm using 30 volume. All right, so I'm using 30. And again, I like to really make sure that I am swirling this developer around. This is kind of like pre-mixing for me, so I am putting a lot of developer over the top of the powder, so when I go in to fold it with my brush, it's really easy for me to do. Okay, so there we go. Screw that on, and then I have a fresh brush. I also really love this brush from Schwarzkopf to paint with. I find that it really grabs onto the grains of the hair really well, so I love it for foiling, but I also love it for painting. Okay, so now again, I'm just going to go in and fold this lightener. And think of a figure 8. And use the grains of the brush at the bottom of the bowl to really work that lightener together and get that nice consistency and that nice blend. And it folds together really quickly, no problem. All right, so here we are. We're at a place where I'm happy with it. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay. So that's what it looks like. Now think about this. When I'm freehand painting, I don't want to have a lightener that is going to be a lightener that moves too much or something that I can't control. And so this lightener is going to be perfect for me to be able to spread on the hair. I know that it's going to lay very nicely. It's not going to go through the grains of the hair and create a bunch of spots. It's going to be exactly what I need it to be. All right. Here is a tip that I have for whenever you're doing any sort of hair painting. Tip number 1 is that you are not trying to saturate a panel when you're hair painting. This is just surface painting, and it's very important to remember that, because if you try to saturate a panel with BLONDME Clay Lightener, you're going to create a mess, and it's not designed for that. If you are looking for a overall lighter effect, then you maybe want to switch your technique and pick a different lightener. So what BLONDME Clay Lightener is designed to do is for precision lightening that's hand painted for surface painting, and that is how you're going to be successful. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to hold your section just like this, and maybe what you want to do too, and this is another tip, in order to be successful with the clay lightener, is maybe just push a little of these little baby hairs out of the way. And I'm not talking like tease, I'm talking just maybe run your comb over and just get a little of these little baby hairs out of the way, so you're a little bit more successful and you have some diffusion against your base to your mid-lengths and ends. And now you have a nice surface to paint on, just like that. Great. Okay, so let me show you how amazing the BLONDME Clay Lightener is to paint with. And also what you want to do as well is when you're taking your clay lightener is you just want to make sure that you have enough on your brush to where you can work with it. So if you have too much lightener on your brush, then it's going to be a mess. But if you don't have enough, then you're going to find yourself not able to spread it. So it's just enough, and practice makes perfect. So if you're somebody who is new to any sort of hair painting or even painting with the BLONDME clay, I always recommend working with a mannequin head first and getting your bearings and really figuring out your technique first. So elevation is key to ensuring that you are going to be able to be successful whenever you're painting. So you're going in and you're just going to lay this clay lightener right on top of the hair, just like that. And I just want to show you how beautiful this clay lightener works. It lays like a dream. I just want to go in and really just, it's so satisfying to watch this clay lightener. Even down, it works very much like the precision lightener, but it's doing a different technique altogether. So I'm going in and then I just take my hand and just work this clay lightener down all the way to the ends. So one quick reminder that when you're using the BLONDME Clay Lightener is that it has a soft to solid formula which will allow this lightener to stay in place for all of your hand-painted needs, which is why I love this lightener so much. It is my favorite to paint with, and as I'm finishing up this panel, you'll see I'm even being able to go all the way down to the smallest part of the hair in a very detailed manner, and I can just lay it down and I can move on. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you each of the sections that I've worked on with all of the 3 lighteners, so that way you can see exactly what it looks like in real time as they've been processing for a while. All right, so now I'm going to give you a quick overview of all 3 of the BLONDME lighteners, starting first with the BLONDME Premium Lightener 9 Plus. As you can see, I started with the BLONDME Premium 9 Plus lightener in a foil, and I'm going to show you what it looks like after 30 minutes of processing time. I'm going to pull this foil and show you that it didn't move, it stayed in place, and what a beautiful lift I got. So here we are pulling the foil, and look at how seamless and easy this foil pull is. And this lightener is staying exactly where I put it, all the way down, and look at how gorgeous, healthy, and even that lift is. So satisfying. Perfection. Now we're going to move on. I'm going to go over here, and we are going to go to the second lightener that I talked about, which is the BLONDME Precision Lightener. Again, the reason you're going to use the BLONDME Precision Lightener is for those detailed blonding techniques. If you have somebody who is a bleach and tone, that's specifically designed for bleach and tone touch-ups. And I even used it on her because I wanted to showcase exactly where you would lay it on somebody who has already an existing bleach and tone, and you want to create this level of lift here without touching the base first, and you don't want it to expand into an area that's already been lightened, or maybe you have an area that needs to be lifted but you don't want to touch any other lightening that has already been done because you don't want to create any damage. So as you can see, the Precision Lightener has stayed exactly where you need it to be, and it is such an amazing tool in the BLONDME portfolio. So now we're going to move on to the BLONDME Clay Lightener. Now, as you know, the BLONDME Clay Lightener is used for hand-painted looks, for your balayage looks, and it is such an amazing lightener. As you know, I'm painted hair, and so I'm very fond of the BLONDME Clay Lightener. You are going to use it to create this soft to solid transition on the hair, and it is going to allow you to paint without creating any sort of a mess. And as you can see, I'm gonna lift up this hair, and if I were to paint underneath and I were to create a panel here, I could then move and paint right on top and create panels throughout without having them interfere with each other. You are going to get the most beautiful lift with the BLONDME Clay Lightener. It is one of my favorite lighteners in the portfolio because of that, because I'm painted hair. So another thing quickly that I want to talk about is that whenever I'm using the clay lightener, I want to use it with different levels and different strengths of developer. And so if you have any questions about that, I want you to go ahead and rewatch this video and take some notes and really just refresh yourself on everything that I talked about. All right, so how are you feeling? Did this help to boost your confidence when using BLONDME? Let me know in the comments. Also, thank you so much for watching this BLONDME breakdown. Hit subscribe and check out our playlist here on the side for more BLONDME educational videos. I'll see you all next time.